Karen Warden with Film Courage, the radio show. We're here with attorney, filmmaker, and author Paul Battista. And we keep them, guarded. We don't want to let people know because we're afraid then they'll turn around. We don't know who we're talking to sometimes on the street,
right,
or who can overhear us, and then they might turn it into something and make a ton of money. I mean,
and it's a common question, and there's a few different schools of thought. From the people that are within the system that I've seen respond to it, their answer is always like, just have as many ideas as you possibly can. Write them down. You don't sit on any one idea. You should have as many ideas as possible and expose them to as many people as possible. They do leave out the other part, that it is good to protect yourself. The other side of the coin is, okay, I have all these ideas and I have them written down, and I'm very free with the people that I meet. How do I protect myself? And one way that people do protect themselves is when they're working with someone, they're going to pitch them an idea. They say, look, if you're going to use the idea, I would expect that I would be compensated for it. And at that point, they're trying to create a contract with the person. So it's not based on copyright, because ideas are not copyrightable, first off. And then in terms of getting it down into a writing is a second part of copyright. But if you have a contract with someone and you say, look, I'm giving you something that's valuable, and if you use that value, I would expect to be compensated for it. You're trying to create a contract with them. The issue then becomes, how would you prove it down the line? And feedback that from the attorney's side that you often hear as well, follow up. Especially nowadays with email. If you send an email just recapping, hey, it's great to meet you, great to see you, here's the idea that we talked about, and I hope things go great with it, and we'll figure out a good way to make money off of this. There you have a record of the conversation, who it was with, and ultimately your side of what was said. Normally people will respond to that email and say, yes, it was great to see you, or if they don't, then it's still your side of the record. So it's a difficult question, because as you were saying, you don't want to come across as paranoid or scary, or turn people off, because ultimately it is about business. But on the other hand, ideas are pretty free, and ultimately you do want to protect yourself.
how would you deal with someone that says, you know what, let's just have a gentleman's agreement on a handshake? It's all fine, you can trust me, don't worry about it, I wouldn't steer you wrong. What do you say to that? How does one say, you know what, I do trust you, but do you mind if we just get that in writing? I mean, is an oral contract binding?
Oral contracts in California are binding.
Okay.
The problem is proving them. Because basically you need to have definite terms. You need to understand what the people were agreeing to. And that's really, the famous quote is oral contracts aren't worth the paper that they're written on, right? So, yes, they are, but ultimately I think that the answer is, when people do business, they want to be clear. So people's memory change, for good and bad. So really, that's great that we trust each other, but it's not a matter of trust, it's just a matter of getting clear and writing down even just basic points of what we're agreeing to. Because when you think of contracts, if you see like a studio contract, it can be 50, 100 pages long, and that's what comes to mind. But even a one-page, a two-page contract is better than just agreeing orally to what that you're going to do. If you get a 1 or 2 page contract is a better way to go. And in terms of, I say that in terms of doing business, a lot of people do it the handshake way. That's the way they do business in the industry. And what they're saying is that I'm going to shoulder a certain amount of risk, and at the end of that, if it doesn't turn out the way I want to, I'm not going to be angry or upset. I may protect myself all those ways, because sending emails. Emails is really kind of changed the game in that way, where you can follow up with emails, and emails are written, and ultimately they will be looked to in terms of trying to figure out what was going on between parties. So my feedback would be, from a practical point of view, utilize that email, especially because you can be informal yet talk about the terms that you're talking about to get to what is the agreement that we have.
I have here his book, Independent Film Producing, The Outsider's Guide to Producing a First Low-Budget Feature Film. And you can get that on paulbattista.biz.